What's happening, guys? It's Nick from S2 Strategic Defense. Hope all is well. The video that you guys are about to watch is a replay from a live session that we held just a couple days ago on one of my closed group Facebook pages. This session was a lot of fun. We had a chance to break down and really dissect the concept of intercepting from JKD. So instead of just working out, we actually had a chance to teach and get into some details, and I hope you guys really appreciate that part of it. If you guys want access to our closed group page, that page is for the folks who are doing our online training. You guys can check out any of our online courses at www.s2online.academy. I'll put a link for that down in the description below, along with the discount code that's good for another few days. Make sure you guys check those out. Hopefully you find something that you like in there. And one of the features that you receive automatically just for signing up is access to that closed group page. All right, guys, be safe, have fun. Hopefully you guys enjoy this session. Love to hear from you in the comment section below.
Let's get into this thing. Okay, real quick to start warming up, I always like starting off with footwork because footwork is the foundation of all things movement. If you don't understand how to move your feet in a coordinated way, you're going to lack out on all kinds of stuff. Remember, like having fast hands and no footwork is basically having a Ferrari with no tires, all right? It's really going to be a problem. And so I want you guys to spend time on footwork. I'm one of those instructors that constantly harasses people on footwork, okay? So here we go. We're gonna start off with that female triangle just for a couple seconds here. If you guys don't know what that looks like, it's a V. We're starting down at the point, 45 degrees out to the right and return, 45 degrees out to the left and return. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and start off kind of in the centered position. Get my hands up, we're gonna go 45 out to one side and return, 45 out to the other side and return, okay? And for those of you guys who have trained with me for ages, you know that I'm watching your feet. I'm watching your feet through the camera, okay? It's a new technology. I can actually see you guys, all right? Don't bounce in the sense of like, don't have this hop in the middle. I want you guys to get out, be committed to that direction, return, and then get out. In the middle, it looks kind of like a hop, but we have this exchange that's going on, right? One foot's coming down, the other foot's going off, right? And so female triangle, female, and female. Okay, our next footwork is the male triangle, which looks like the pillars of an A, okay? And we're starting at that top point. So we're taking 45-degree steps now backwards, okay? And backwards, and still has that same exchanging of the feet. 45 back, 45 back, 45 back, 45 back, 45 back, 45 back, 45 back. Yeah, okay. You'd be surprised. Now, normally when we do triangle footwork, you know, this is a kind of a stationary way of doing it, meaning we could be at one point. We typically don't want to keep staying in the same spot, starting from the same spot. We want to keep moving around. And so that's important. Step, slide, cross, right lead. Okay, so standing forward, right lead means right foot, right hand forward, left foot, left hand kind of backwards. Now, you guys have seen me do this before. I like that loaded base. We're going to talk a lot about that in a couple minutes. We're going to move in a cross pattern. Step, slide forward, step, slide back, step, slide right, step, slide left. Forward, back, right, and left. Forward, back, right, and left. Forward and back, right, and left. Let's go one more. Forward, back, right, and left. Okay, same thing. Get that good loaded base. Hands up, knees are bent, elbows are in, back heels up. Forward, back, left, and right. Forward, back, left, and right. Forward, back, left, and right. Now here's something I'll point out for you guys. There's people who do this motion with their hands a lot, right? And they come forward. That's dead space, it's dead time, it means nothing. And it's also something that a good JKD eye will read and see when somebody's about to launch. So when you guys are doing this footwork, don't do the hands forward, hand cycle, hand cycle, hand cycle. Don't do that. That's bad habit. Break that habit, okay? Here, 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 right? And so non-telegraphic is important. Let's warm up the hands and the arms and the shoulders a little bit, right? Real simple. Starting with whatever lead you guys like, right? Right lead's fine. We're going to go jab, then jab cross, then jab cross hook. Jab, jab cross, lead hand hook. Okay? Jab, jab cross, hook. Jab, jab cross, hook. Jab, jab cross, hook. And you notice I'm not whipping these punches out. I'm not trying to, blow anything up or break anything. I just want to build some heat into the body, which in an 85-degree day stuck in the garage, pretty easy to do. But I want to start getting acclimated to those motions, okay? So from your preferred lead, jab, jab cross, and lead hand hook. Jab, jab cross, lead hand hook. Okay? Same thing now from the opposite lead. Okay, so I went right lead, so here I'll go left lead. We're gonna go jab, jab cross, lead hand hook. Okay, and reset. Jab, jab cross, lead hand hook. Okay. Jab, jab cross, lead hand hook. Jab, jab cross, lead hand hook. Okay? Jab, jab cross, lead hand hook. Good. All right? So we're starting to build a little bit of movement into our shoulders and elbows and that kind of thing. And let's just do one more here. We're going to do an 8 count. Those of you guys who did combat kickboxing with me or combat cardio with me back in Illinois, you probably remember this. Okay? Jab, cross, hook, cross. That's 4, right? First 4 is 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? Jab, cross, hook, cross. Then we have the overhand, the uppercut, and then the overhand. Okay? When we put those together, jab, cross, hook, cross, overhand, uppercut, overhand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. One more time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Again, I'm not trying to, I'm not trying to Mike Tyson it. I just want to loosen up a little bit. And one of the things that I focus on when I'm doing those things is that swagger step that we talk about on the Kali side a lot, right? The weight transfer between front leg to back leg, back to the front leg. And you see all these front to back to front, back and forth, right? So it's constantly got this rocking back and forth through the twisting of the feet and the twisting of the hips. If you guys are just putting the arms out there, you're cheating. You're cheating yourself because you're looking for speed and you want it to look like Manny Pacquiao perfect. And it's not gonna be. Manny Pacquiao moves weight. Mike Tyson moves weight. Everybody moves weight. And so take your time, get those quick pivots in. Sure, if you were sparring or fighting, it's not gonna be pretty. But there's a degradation factor in here, right? If you practice something at 50% and you degrade in quality at 20% under stress, now you're only applying at 30%. But if you practice at 110% and you still have that same degradation factor of 20%, now you're at 80%. Okay, so keep that in mind. Mechanics are important. Don't let those go. Okay, here we go. All right. Everybody's okay on this, right? No questions there? All right. So here's what I'd like to do. Today's discussion, today's lesson is going to be on the Jeet of Jeet Kune Do. Jeet means to intercept, right? We have the Jeet Kune Do way of the intercepting fist, Jeet Tech, the intercepting foot. We use that term in the JKD community a lot. It means to intercept. My goal today is to give you guys a better understanding of what that actually means without dissecting it so far that your head hurts, okay? But I do need to give you guys a better understanding, and then we'll go from there and into a couple techniques and tactics when it comes to intercepting that you guys can work on, okay? I would like to play a quick video for you guys, okay? And that will help set the tone for all things, all right? And so let me preface it by saying this. Intercepting is not easy. It's simple, but it's not easy. It takes time, training time, good guidance to help you understand what's going on, to develop the attributes. But it's so well worth spending the time doing it. Okay, so it's simple, it's just not easy. All right, so here goes our video. I hope you guys enjoy this real quick.
What is this thing you do?
In Cantonese, Jeet Kune Do, the way of the intercepting fist.
Intercepting fist, huh?
Or foot. Come on, touch me. Any way you can. You see? To reach me, you must move to me. Your attack offers me an opportunity to intercept you. In this case, I'm using my longest weapon, my sidekick, against the nearest target, your kneecap. This can be compared to your left jab in boxing, except it's much more damaging.
I see. Well, speaking of a left jab.
Oh, this time I intercept your emotional tenseness. You see, from your thought to your fist, how much time was lost.
Not much.
All right, so there's a quick video that's from Longstreet, a show that was called Longstreet that was in the 60s or maybe early 70s, and Bruce Lee had cameoed on that for a handful of episodes. And so he mentions something in here. He says, look, way of the intercepting fist, Jeet Kune Do, right, in Cantonese, Jeet Kune Do, way of the intercepting fist. More important about what he's telling you is how he defines it. What does he say? First thing he says is, my longest tool to the closest target, okay? And so he describes a sidekick to the guy's knee. Ultimately, what is he actually telling you? He's telling you that he had the wherewithal, the awareness, to be able to read behavior, okay? To read behavior and respond accordingly to that behavior. So if we were to define intercepting, right, we would say something more along the lines of we are reading a stimulus and we are responding to that stimulus before it matures, okay? We are reading a stimulus and we are responding to that stimulus before it matures. So essentially, you need to have a high level of awareness and predictability and just be able to gather information in a snapshot. Later on in the episode, he talks about, hey, look, it's not about thinking. If you think, you're going to be lost. Okay? It's going to take you too long. By the time you realize the moment is already gone. And so this has to be something that's, in my favorite term, auto-magic, okay? It has to be auto-magically because you don't have time to respond that way, okay? You don't have time to be like, okay, well, what did that guy say, or how did I train, or whatever. How do you develop that keen eye for intercepting? It's through training, through guidance, and to know what to look for. In the hierarchy of attributes, okay, speed being at the very lowest of that. Being fast is easy. You know how you beat somebody who's fast? You open distance. You open up that reactionary gap, okay? Power. How do you beat power? Same type of thing, except now we put in a little bit of speed, right? We don't let that power mature, okay? How do you beat somebody who has good distancing, right? Or we beat them on time, all right? And the ultimate part of the hierarchy is awareness. And so when you have good awareness of what's going on in the environment, what's going on with this person emotionally, physically, these types of things, you can now have a good stimulus to respond off of. And that's a tough thing to really kind of culminate and make it automatic without constant training and constant refinement. So once you start getting good at it, if you stop doing it, you'll lose that like mind's eye to be able to see things. You have to spend time doing it. Okay, any questions so far? Everybody's okay? Let me know if you guys have any questions. All right, so there's a few things that you guys should know. When we talk about your 5 things that you can do, right, in a fight, what can you do? You can offend, you can defend, you can counter-offend, you can evade, and then you can intercept, all right? So if you guys are offending, right, that's all of my striking stuff. And so I'm gonna give you guys some notes here. You can take a snapshot of this real quick if you like. And so there's some notes for you guys, okay? And what you're seeing is kind of split the page in half here. This is actually from one of my online courses that I'm working on, which is the 52-week JKD Trainer. It's a 1-year-long program to start working and training in JKD. All right, so when we have the 5 options of combative action, I just talked about this, right? Offend, defend, evade, counter-offend, then off to the right is intercept. In the offense side, all of your striking, your trapping, and your grappling. Now that includes your punches, your kicks, your elbows, your knees, your pak saws, your lop saws, all those types of things, and any kind of type of trapping that you guys might know. And then the grappling aspect, that's standing grappling, throwing, clinch work, being on the ground, submitting somebody, right? Joint manipulation, that kind of stuff. That all fits in the offend category, all right? And then you have the defense side. How do you defend? Redirection, obstruction, stuff, and or jam, all right? Redirecting, so if somebody is throwing a punch at me and I used a rear hand parry, I'm redirecting that punch, okay? The obstruction, if somebody throws that same punch at me and I catch it in front of me, or if I put my cover up and cover over my face, I'm obstructing that attack. And then stuff or jam, which is a lot like trapping, right? And so, we can prematurely kind of reach out. It's a little bit more active for stopping that particular tool. Okay, then you have evade. Look, you can certainly run if the environment allows you to. I tend to tell people try not to run if at all possible, because those who run end up dying tired. And distance, okay? You could change the distance. You can step back, you could step out to the side, male and female triangle type of stuff. Slip, bob, weave, any of those things. Or you can reposition the angle, right? I'm going to change, so I'm not going to be in the same place, like get off of the X. That's kind of the line. And then you have counter-offend. Counter-offend is a combination of striking, of offending and defending. So we typically are, just as an example, somebody throws me a jab, I use a rear hand parry, I come right over the top of it and I return my jab. And for those of you guys who've done some training with me, you understand the jab 3 drill. The jab 3 drill, that exchange, that quick parry and return or parry and kick, that's counter-offending. But the secret behind counter-offending is that you understand how to hit on half beats. Okay, you can't let that person have their recovery and then hit them. Now it's just a hit. Okay, the counter-offend is a moment in time, and so counter-offenders are typically much more keen on distance, time, spatial relationship, and otherwise. Okay, and then in the right side we have what's called the interception timeline. And by the way, if you guys aren't following along or aren't able to screenshot this, that's perfectly fine. I will put this back up for you towards the end, and so that way you guys can see this again. Ultimately, you have the beginning of a technique, the middle of a technique, and the end of a technique. And then you could break that down further, the beginning of the beginning, the middle of the beginning, the end of the beginning. The beginning of the middle of the middle, the end of the middle. The beginning of the end, middle of the end, or the end of the end. And underneath that, you'll see that I have this particular arrow that's going down line, okay? Let's start from the right side and work our way back to the left. If you're forced on defense, right? Catch, parry, cover, that kind of stuff. That's typically happening in the end third of that person's attack, right? They're throwing a punch out and you're trying to block that punch while you're doing it at the extension of the punch, right? And so it's towards the end of the end. If you're a counter fighter, you tend to be more in the middle because like they're doing something, you're going to defend and re-offend right on the top of that in that time. And so that's typically kind of like end of the middle or middle of the middle kind of a timeline. And then if you want to intercept, you have to be in the beginning part of this. You have to understand what that person's doing. You have to be able to read their behavior, their emotional content, and all that stuff, right? And it has to be in the front part of it. You cannot intercept when they've already launched their technique and it's already at your face or at your groin or at your body or whatever. It has to happen before it matures. Remember what I said, we see a stimulus, we respond to that stimulus before it matures. And so if you have a technique, if I take a punch, somebody's throwing a punch, they chamber their hand, they rotate their hip, they loosen up their elbow, it's coming down line, it gets to my face, now they're starting to return that full extension back to their body and taking their guard again. So it goes down from beginning, middle, end. Okay? And so the defend part that happens at the end, and intercepting happens at the beginning. And JKD is really the only art that allowed me or taught me how to move up the timeline, right? Because I come from traditional arts and boxing and Thai boxing and that kind of stuff, and it always taught me how to be in the end, and then if you're an advanced practitioner, you were kind of in the middle. But for the guys who are really keen when it comes to JKD, it happens at the beginning part of things. And so what do we need in intercepting? Well, you need readiness, and readiness means that you have a good stance and it's a good base. You need good footwork because you have to be able to advance or retreat or move off of an angle, and that has to be on demand. Okay? Then you have the awareness and the ability to observe. Speed and timing. You can't be slow about intercepting. It has to happen at the right time, and it has to be just evasively fast. And then lastly, it has to be without conscious effort, which means you don't have the time to sit there and think about what's going on. Okay? Okay, so those are some basic notes about the interception concept and how to relate that to, everything else that you could do, right? Offense, defense, counter offense, evasion, and then obviously interception. And, I can't stress to you enough how difficult it is to be functionally effective and consistent at intercepting. One of the things that I talked about here and the things that you need is preparedness. If I'm standing straight, right, or just kind of like jag-bagging around and I see somebody's punch coming on, I will have to get my hands up, get my feet apart, get my weight ready, get my chin down, and then do something. And so you're doing this and that and this and this and that, and then you haven't really done anything. Okay? In order to be good at intercepting, you first have to be ready to move. And so we've done the head level drill in my classes, just so you guys understand what the head level drill is. It looks something like this. Watch the top of my head here. I'm going to go laterally so you guys can kind of see this a little bit better. If my legs are up and I'm standing upright, right? And even if I have my hands up, now it looks like I'm kind of ready to fight, right? But for me to throw a jab forward, what happens to the top of my head? I'll do that for you again. My stick goes rolling under the car, okay? Happens again, okay? All right. If I'm already ready, what happens to the top of my head? Okay, you guys type in what you're seeing at the top of the head or at the bottom of the head and see what's changing. What you should be seeing is that the elevation changes. When I'm not ready, the head drops and then it comes forward. When I'm in a loaded base, my head's already down and it moves on a flat line, okay? Which means I'm prepared to move. That moment when you're not ready for the head to come down and come forward, that's what we call dead time. A good JKD practitioner will tear you apart in that dead time. Promise, okay? Yes. So I'm seeing people type in that when you're loaded, you don't drop your head. Exactly, good. So that's what it looks like, okay? So that's the first thing that you guys need to have. How did I go from A to B? I needed footwork, okay? Now that's if somebody's at distance from me. What if they're right up in my Kool-Aid, right? They're right up in my face. Now I need to be able to move back, okay? And so your footwork has to be on command. Is it forward? Is it back? Is it lateral? Is it an angle? Or do we circle? I don't know. And so you have to have a command over your feet before you have a command over anything else, okay? Observation and awareness is tough for me to describe here, except I just gave you guys something to watch. When somebody else is, chest up and they're all up in your Kool-Aid, even, hey, F you and yada, 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 for them to throw that punch, either they have to chamber up really wide, or they're going to get their hands together, step down, their head's going to come down and come forward. Guess when I'm going to hit somebody? When I'm going to intercept somebody. I'm going to intercept them when I see either that hand cocked back or their head comes down. I'm going to blast them as hard as I possibly can in that fraction of a moment. And for me to be able to do that, I need command on my feet, I need good observation. It has to be done with speed. Understand? Okay. And so last thing I said, it has to be without conscious effort. Without conscious effort means I can't be like, oh no, Tom's about to throw a punch because Tom's a dick, and what did that Nick guy tell me to do? He said put my feet forward, my elbows up, or did he say, you know, grab on my ankle? I can't remember exactly what that Nick guy, okay? You can't think about it. And the only way to get good at not thinking about it is by doing it over and over and over. I see I move, I see I move, I see I move, I see I move. That's the way it works, stimulus response, okay? All right, good. Okay, so that's a little bit about the concept of intercepting. So we, just like you saw in that video, we talk about the longest tool closest target. Okay, now in the video he talked about the knee, that's a good option. The groin's a good option. But he also talks about the eye jab, right? When he's like, oh, you know, I intercepted your emotional tension and that, and so we talk about the eye jab. So let's talk about the eye jab, what we call the BUG. Now I like the eye jab a lot. I'll tell you why. It simply works. It works almost overly predictably well because you can't condition to receive pain in the eye, right? You can't lift weights, you can't do curls, you can't swim laps, you can't do squats. None of those things condition the eye. You essentially always get, as long as you're successful with the technique, is you always get one of two responses. Either you get their hands up and them to turn away, or you get their hands to turn in and then they drive their head down to their palms. And that creates a moment. Understand something. This is a brief moment, but I'm going to have my way inside of that moment. That's what I'm going to enter, put pressure on, and put this SOB down as hard as I possibly can. So let's talk about this eye jab. There's several ways to throw it. First thing I'll show you guys is the 3 places of your fingers that you're going to be making contact with. First place, okay, hopefully you guys can see that. First place is at the pad of the finger, okay? So that's going to come out this way. Second place is at the front of the finger. And the third place is at the back knuckle line over here, okay? So pad of the finger, front of the finger, back of the finger. Now if you guys are going to be working your eye jabs and that kind of thing on a heavy bag, use the pad of the finger. Try not to use the front of the finger. I don't want you guys jamming your finger up, but it is a viable option to throw. Okay. Now, a lot of you guys have striking experience, right? Kickboxing, traditional martial arts, all that stuff. And so you're used to being able to throw a jab. The difference between a jab and an eye jab and on a fundamental level here is that the eye jab extends the fingers, okay? The jab puts the hand out and back. The eye jab puts the fingers forward. And that buys you 2-3 inches of distance, okay? So that's a pro of the eye jab, okay? Second thing that I will tell you guys is let's talk about the mechanic of this thing. And there's a few variants. We don't want to eye jab with our arm out like we're doing a haymaker or a hook or any of that stuff. Keep that elbow down and your head behind it. You want this thing to come straight out and straight back. It's like a bullwhip. It is not a hammer, okay? So it comes out and comes back fast. Comes out fast, comes out fast, all right? That elbow stays close to our body in case we need to be able to change line, cover, change this, to something else. Okay. So it's here, but if you lose that elbow to the body, you're gonna have a problem with it. So that's one option, okay? You can drive that front of the finger or the pad of the finger, okay? Or the back knuckle line. The back knuckle line is kind of like our angle 2 with the stick. It goes backhanded. Pow, 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 right? Front hand, backhand, okay? And so what we're doing is we're kind of whipping. If you've never had the joy of putting that knuckle line into somebody's eye, or you've never had the wonderful pleasure of receiving it, I promise you, it is well worth your money, all right? And so that's something to keep in mind. Now, 2 lines that you should know. Right now is the straight line, right? Straight out and straight back. Then we have what's called the J line. The J line means it comes out, it curves, and it circles back, okay? Straight line, J line. Okay, I'm gonna get a little bit closer to the camera so you guys can see this a little bit. Straight line comes straight to the eye in return. J line comes out to the side, and comes back. So it circles, circles, circles. Straight, 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 circle, circle, circle. Okay. Why? What's the difference? Well, when we do the straight line type of attack, like the jab, the eye jab, the JKD straight lead, the cross, all these things, it's going to go from 0 to accelerate to decelerate, because our body and our brain understand that we don't want to hyperextend our own elbows. So it's going to come back to 0, and then it's going to go right back through all of those lines. So it's going to go from dead standstill, accelerate, there's some momentum, decelerate, accelerate, momentum, decelerate. Okay, that's in a straight line. In a J line, we don't have to hit all those points. We can accelerate once, let momentum carry, and it helps us circle through that and come back around. We prevent the hyperextension by allowing that momentum to carry through. Okay? Okay? This way. Straight has to come straight out and straight back. J has to have this, like half circle kind of a thing. The downside of using the J line is that there's a little bit of an off angle that happens in here sometimes. Okay? And you see that it starts to expose my wrist and forearm. So if somebody's good and they come crashing down, if somebody's good at trapping, they'll trap that down. If somebody's good at parrying, they'll parry that out of the way. Okay, so you have to understand when to use which one. All right? One of the things that I very grateful in my early JKD career, midway through my JKD career, right? So was when I was first starting to train under Professor Roy Harris when I was at his academy in San Diego. He would encourage us to take a heavy bag, take some white tape on it, put an X about the eye line and X about the groin line, and we'd push that bag, and every time it would come through, boom, we'd have to hit that with our eye jab. Push it again, boom, hit that with our eye jab, okay? Push it again, right? Boom, hit that with our eye jab. And push it again, boom, to the other side. Now I'm using the back of the hand, right? Push it again, boom, at the fingertip. Push it again, back, boom, hit that with the backhand. And so that's how we trained it, because it not only helped us understand the technique, but we had to get that spatial relationship, the timing, distancing, that part of it down, and we had to figure out what line to go on. If you guys have ever pushed a swinging heavy bag, sometimes it comes straight back and forth, sometimes a little out to the side, sometimes circles, okay? And so by having that X, we got like laser line focus with our eye jab. We just don't miss them. That's a signature of the Harris International JKD guys. We simply don't miss the eye jabs, okay? The lower X is for the next tool that we'll talk about here in just a minute. Okay, any questions so far? Any questions so far? Put your questions in. Everybody's understanding the concept of interception and a little bit about how to apply, and then obviously now going into the BUG or the eye jab. Longest tool, closest target. My high line upstairs, my longest tool is my lead hand, right? The jab would be my fastest, longest tool, waist up. And so closest target would be nose, throat, eyes. Here we're just focusing on the eye. All right, okay. Then, aside from lead hand, learn how to do it rear hand, okay? Learn how to, boom, hit that from the rear hand. Because when you move laterally, right, something's coming in, it's got you worried, oh crap, I gotta get out of the way. I gotta move laterally, because if I move straight back, it's gonna plow through me. If I move straight forward, maybe I didn't have that spatial relationship thing down quite yet, and so I'm gonna run into this, you know, whatever. And so sometimes we move laterally. And so when we move laterally, it is typically whatever hand's gonna be towards that target. I'm moving to my right, this is my left hand, okay? Here, if I move, my left hand is forward, my right can't go, okay? So the forward shoulder, boom, I hit that here. If I'm going to my left, this is my right hand, I'd be here, boom, hit this way. This is a good place for that backhand, right, where we're using that knuckle line, all right? And so that's a good way to get this thing going. Now, we don't end fights with eye jabs and groin kicks, but we start them that way often. All right? Okay. All right. Marie, yes, eye jabs are still like the jab, right? So if I'm in my fighting position, the jab is done with my lead leg, lead hand, right? That's equal. And so the eye jab is also done the same way. It's exactly to the jab in that manner. I'll give you a little bit more deeper detail of this thing. When we talk about the jab, first there's 3 types of jabs. There's what we call a post jab. Post because I didn't move. Then we have what's called a half-step jab, which only moves the front foot and back. Boom, boom. And then we have the full-step jab. Sorry, the mats are sliding a little bit. The full-step jab moves both feet. Okay, so post puts me here. Boom. Okay. Half-step puts me 1 foot forward and then back. Full-step brings everything forward. One thing. Second thing is that which order do you fire in? More often than not, if I have to close the distance, either a half step or a full step jab, in the boxing, kickboxing, Muay Thai line, we will move our feet first and our hand last. Okay? Our feet first and our hand last. Our feet first and our hand last. I'll give you a side view of that. I move my feet to the target. As I'm moving, I move my hand out. Okay? Feet first, hand last. In the JKD side, the straight lead, we lead with the hand. My hand moves first. My feet move right behind it. Okay? All right, so a little bit about the eye jab, intercepting. Now, let's talk about a different tool. Let me show you guys this real quick. We've been doing step slides. Let's take one step back. Okay, step slides. I step in the direction that I'm going. I slide the other foot. If I'm in a right lead, I'm going forward. So my front foot goes first, my back foot drags behind. If I'm going backwards, my back foot goes first, my front leg drags behind. If I'm going out to the right, my right foot steps first, my left foot drags behind. If I'm going out to the left, my left foot goes first, my right foot drags behind. Step slide, so we get wider and then back narrower. Then we have what's called a push shuffle. In the JKD terms,